All employees in the SCHADS award need to meet a minimum wage guided by pay points and levels. This depends on their employment type and work capacity. You need to carefully consider what classification in the SCHADS award applies to them, because the classification of your employee will determine their correct pay rate. An employee's level under the SCHADS award usually depends on their qualifications or experience. And the SCHADS award also contains pay points. When an employee has reached 12 months continuous employment, they'll be eligible for progression from one pay point to the next if their performance has been competent and satisfactory over the 12 months. Now, an employee may be eligible, but deciding whether to reclassify them at a higher pay point is entirely at the employer's discretion. So, in part 7 of the SCHADS online course, we'll go through what the minimum wage levels are, the different employee levels, pay points, and even provisions, as well as crisis accommodation employees and family daycare and home care employees too. Also, make sure you check out our playlist containing the rest of the course. I've left a link in the description box below. And if you work in a business under the SCHADS award and you need to include this as part of your CPD or need a certificate, we have a paid version of the course that will also issue you a certificate when you complete the course. It also contains bonus tools like our SCHADS compliance checklist to help you with processing payroll. And we keep the course 100% updated as changes come through with the SCHADS award. I've also left those links below. Let's get into it.
All employees working in Australia are entitled to a minimum wage. This is the lowest amount an employee can be paid for the work that they're doing. It's important to note that the minimum wage refers to the amount of pay before tax is taken out. In other words, it's their gross pay. Gross pay does not include any of the penalty rates and allowances that your employees are entitled to. That'll be paid on top of the minimum wage. Each year, the Fair Work Commission reviews the minimum pay rates under the SCHADS award, so you'll need to stay up to date. The minimum wage rate is classified according to the 4 different groups under the SCHADS award. Number 1 relates to social and community services employees. Number 2 relates to crisis accommodation employees. Number 3 relates to family daycare employees. And number 4 relates to home care employees. Let's start with social and community services employees. There are 8 different levels of employees relating to their employment characteristics, their responsibilities, and the requirements of their position. A Level 1 social and community services employee will work under the close direction of their employer. They usually undertake routine activities of a clerical and support nature, and they generally receive substantial on-the-job training. From there, each level increases the employee's responsibilities and required expertise. A Level 4 social and community services employee will be someone who can apply their knowledge and skills that they gained through various tertiary qualifications. They usually work in a specific discipline and exercise responsibility for various functions within the work area. A Level 8 social and community services employee usually exercises managerial responsibility and undertakes work of significant scope and complexity. They typically have specialist qualifications and substantial post-grad experience. So, from the different levels, you'll see that each level will differ in its minimum wage requirements. A Level 8 employee will definitely earn more than a Level 1 employee. To take it a step further, the SCHADS award is arranged so that there are several different pay points within the different classification levels of the award. There are several specific provisions in the award that deal with which pay point an employee must start employment on, and how progression through pay points is dealt with regarding certain classification levels. There is a provision for certain social and community service employees at Level 1, Pay Point 1, to progress to Pay Point 2 based on length of service in the industry. The provision mentions that if an employee performs responsibilities under Level 1 and has completed 12 months of industry experience, they can progress to Pay Point 2. Industry experience means 12 months of relevant experience gained over the previous 3 years. They also insert provisions explicitly relating to the type of responsibility a Level 1 employee has. Most employees will start on Level 1, Pay Point 1, and then progress. But if you have an employee responsible for a full range of domestic duties under general supervision, including cleaning and food service and helping residents carry out personal care tasks, they'll be a Level 1 employee who starts off getting paid according to Pay Point 2. There are also provisions in the SCHADS award for social and community service employees at Level 2, which deal with pay point classification and progression based on qualifications they hold. Employees who have completed an appropriate certificate and are required to undertake work related to that certificate will generally be appointed as Level 2 employees. But if their certificate is a Level 4 certificate, they must start with pay from pay point 2. Once they've provided 12 full-time equivalent months of satisfactory services, they can advance to the next pay point. Similar provisions operate for Level 3 social and community service employees. If the employee has a 3-year degree and undertakes responsibilities under Level 3 classifications, they must start on pay point 3. And graduates with a 4-year degree who undertake work related to the responsibilities under Level 3 must start at least pay point 4. Levels 4 to 8 for social and community service employees don't refer to specific pay point progression rules, so you'll simply apply the General Progression Clause. The General Pay Point Progression Clause deals with progression through pay points for all levels of employees in each stream of the award. It basically says that at the end of 12 months of continuous employment, an employee will be eligible for progression from one pay point to the next if the employee has shown competency and satisfactory performance over a minimum period of 12 months at each level within the level. Not only that, the employee must have acquired and used their new enhanced skills that they would have attained from on-the-job training. But it's worth noting that a federal court recently explained how pay progression provisions in the SCHADS award operate. The court emphasized the word eligible, so employees don't automatically progress from pay points. Deciding to reclassify them at a higher pay point is entirely at the employer's discretion. So, we've covered the general clause and specific rules for social community services employees. Let's have a look at employees in the crisis accommodation stream of the SCHADS award. A Level 1 crisis accommodation employee who was graduated with a 4-year degree must start with at least pay point 4. Graduates required to perform duties relevant to their qualification and undertake work related to the crisis accommodation responsibilities under Level 4 should get paid no lower than pay point 2. Level 2 and Level 3 crisis accommodation employees don't have specific pay point regulations, so the General Pay Point Progression Clause will apply. The same applies to all levels of employees under the family daycare stream and the home care employee stream. There are no specific provisions relating to each level, so the General Pay Point Progression Clause will apply to all the levels. So there you have it, minimum wage and pay point progression for your employees under the SCHADS award. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Fair Work undertakes an annual wage review, and there are generally slight changes in the minimum wage amount. Each year, they publish a pay guide for the SCHADS award, which details the rates of pay for each level and each pay point for your social and community services employees, crisis accommodation employees, and family care and home care employees. You must understand your obligations when it comes to paying your staff, because if you don't correctly classify an employee and end up underpaying them, it can create an array of problems, including significant financial implications. And because the pay point progression is up to an employer, you must make sure that any decision you make isn't exercised unfairly. You should ensure that any decisions regarding pay point progression are taken reasonably and rationally. If the Fair Work Ombudsman investigates your business due to underpayment claims, there can be serious consequences if they find out that the business hasn't been compliant. For one, you'll have to back pay your underpaid employees. 2, you could end up paying pretty hefty fines and penalties. And 3, Fair Work has no problem naming and shaming your business, which could end up causing severe reputational damage. So make sure you understand how to classify your employees and how to pay them accordingly. It's also wise to implement a policy that deals with how you'll consider pay point progressions. See you in the next module.